It is very daring for one to talk about theosis without first having tasted it. But we have dared what is beyond our power because we have faith in the mercy of our great God and Savior Jesus Christ. This is done so as not to hide from our Christian brothers the highest and ultimate purpose of our life, that for which we were created. This is done so that it will become clear that the only truly orthodox form of pastoral guidance is that which is intended to lead to theosis and is not, as in Western Christianity, aimed at moral perfection for man, which does not depend on God's grace. This is done so that all may desire what is best and struggle for the highest. This is the only thing able to quench the depth of the soul's thirst for the absolute, the triune God. This is done so that we realize the irreplaceability of our holy church as the only community of theosis on earth. Let me just offer a word on that. Such beautiful language he uses here. So, again, remember, the purpose of your life is not to be morally good. I just got back from the monastery, Singari Palmas Monastery, literally an hour ago. And I was talking to Geron de Joseph there, and we were talking about Freemasonry. And I told him that about a year ago, I actually met in person for the first time an actual Freemason. And I took that opportunity to dig deep and learn straight from the horse's mouth, as it were, a little bit about what is Freemasonry, because this is a topic that I have not really done a lot of research in, and I was very curious. And at least this particular Freemason, who seems to have been on the one of the lowest levels of Freemasonry, because I guess there's degrees or levels of Freemasonry, and from what I was sharing with my parish priest, he said, "Oh, this Freemason was definitely one on the more lower degrees or levels of Freemasonry based off of what he was saying to you." And I asked the Freemason, I said, "What do you guys think about Christ? Like, do you accept him as the savior of the world?" And he said something along the lines of, it was very perennialist. He said, "We don't care what religion you are." He said, we believe that all religions lead up the same mountain. That you can be Christian, you can be Muslim, you can be Hindu, Buddhist, whatever. He said the whole purpose of life is just to be a good person. That's what he said. And I asked him to actually clarify that like 2, 3 times because I really wanted to make sure I thoroughly understood him. And he repeated that like 2, 3 times. He said, "Yeah, the purpose of life is just to be a basically good person." And but as we just heard from Yeronda Simeon, is that that's not the purpose of life. That's not why God made us. The because if that were the case, then we don't need God, right? We don't need God. We don't need Christ, right? We don't need the gospel, right? Because anyone could be a morally good person. Even an atheist can be a morally good person. The only difference is that the atheist just doesn't recognize that the moral compass and his conscience that's guiding him actually is from God. So that's number one we want to put out here. The purpose of our life is not to be morally good people, but to become like Christ, to be united with Christ. That's the purpose of life. The second principle we want to highlight here is, as Hiram Gregorius says, is that it's only within the Orthodox Church, only within the Orthodox Church, that theosis is possible. This is why we do not recognize sacraments or saints, so-called saints, outside the Orthodox Church. Because it's only within the locus of the undivided, one Holy Catholic Apostolic Church, the Orthodox Church, that theosis is possible. That's the locus of theosis, is the Orthodox Church. And so therefore, we should see that the church is irreplaceable. You cannot live without the church. There's many people out there who are deluded and who say, "Oh, I'm spiritual but not religious. I don't need the church. I have my own spiritual way of going about my relationship with God." And the reason why that's erroneous is because God has established the church as the very locus for us to have a relationship with him. so that the ultimate aim, goal, purpose of that is to achieve theosis, right? That's why we need the sacraments. They're not dispensable. They're not, if you want to have them or participate in. No, they're absolutely essential if we're going to become saints, if we're going to grow in the likeness of God, if we're going to achieve theosis, right? And this is yet another reason why the ecumenistic, perennialistic mentality is so dangerous, because it gives the impression that you don't need the church, that you can find theosis, or you can find salvation, or you can grow spiritually outside the boundaries of the church. And that is a great, great, great deception of the devil, right? Um, this idea that, oh, it doesn't matter what religion you are, all paths lead up to God, and God doesn't really care what religion you are. Or as Pope Francis even claimed, or whatever pope it was, that God willed for all the religions of the world to exist. That's nonsense. It's satanic deception. Again, because why? It pulls people away from the Orthodox Church. It pulls them away from actualizing their purpose in life in and through the Orthodox Church. And that is none other than theosis.